Loss and trauma can be devastating. There's no gainsaying that. Whether it's a permanent loss, you're losing a spouse, a child, a parent, a close friend, it's permanent, it's devastating, and if not well handled, you could be down under for quite a bit. Patience, you will hear.
Yesterday, I had so many aha moments. I don't know if it's possible for one to have as many aha moments as I had yesterday, but to see these people come out of grief, not only come out of, because coming out of grief on its own is a miracle. And then you come out of grief and then you decide to give back in such a way that you're putting smiles on people's faces.
And this conversation began yesterday when we talked with JB. We also talked with Dr. Atama Chukuma. If you recall, Patience.
Yes,
he took us through some stages and why you should go and see a wise counsel, talk about medical counseling at some point where need be. But it says not everyone will need it. That's why Sam Ben is taking us on another journey today, talking about surviving loss and trauma and talking with medical counsel so we gain deeper insight and more clarity.
Well, actually, it's a traumatic experience, but you know, I was coming back from Delta State between Okene and Lokoja. We were stopped by this gunmen, and they opened fire. I had to ask my driver to stop, and he stopped. The next thing they came and asked us to come down from the car and took us into the bush, running for over 30 minutes. You know. So initially, I thought they were armed robbers, and I told them, since you are looking for money, whatever money you've seen in my purse, you can take and let's go. They said, do you think we are robbers? We are not robbers, we are kidnappers. It was then it dawned on me that I was in serious trouble. And we moved into the bush for a very long time. Almost 2 hours we were trekking until we got to a place under the tree. Then they said, that's our hotel. And we sat down there. And, maybe 10 o'clock in the night, because this happened around 4. Contact was made with my younger brother. Negotiation started. And we should be released. We were in Abuja for 4 days before we were eventually released. I didn't eat for 4 days. Although they were cooking and tried to give us food, but the kind of food they were cooking, it's not what I would eat. I'd rather stay hungry, no water to drink. So I relied more on fresh cashew fruits that was abundant in the forest there. I was released around 11 in the night, and by the time we got to Abuja here, it was almost 3. I didn't need to sleep. The first thing I did was to go to Mass. So when I came into the church by 6 o'clock, the church erupted. You know, that people didn't believe that was the person, because they didn't know it. that had already been released. But the first thing I did was to go to church to thank God that early morning. And they sang and danced, and I was very happy. For my family, you know, when I came out, it was a joyous moment for everybody, especially my friends. My friends played a major role to ensure that I was released, and that's what friends are for.
Sit back and take the journey with us on this edition of Kendale as we go through the stages of coping with loss and trouble.
Thank you so much, Sir Ben. Now, joining the conversation is a lady who has done so much for the entertainment world. She is a seasoned broadcaster, but for this show, I like to call her a survivor, a woman who is strong and continues to give strength. I'm talking of no other but Joy Oboru. Let's meet our guest. I was taken away by that. I was just watching. Okay, so I'm going to start to dig right into it. Joy, are we, Thelma?
Yeah, we'll just welcome
Joy.
Good
Yes.
to see you.
Good to see you.
You got this. And then we introduce our mental health expert. And she is Chibuzo Anozie. Chibuzo is a mental health expert. Let's get to meet her.
Okay, so I'll begin with Joy Girl. Like Doshima called you, our producer. She said, Joy Girl. And I remember that advert, Joy Girl. So tell us, everything was said about you, you're a survivor. How did you get here? For people who have not met you before, what led you to this road? Today I call you a survivor. Why? Let people understand.
All right, thank you, Patience and Thelma. I'm just overwhelmed with the hyping. Thank you for having me here. What led me to this place, right? A long story. Well, my journey began, the downward journey began in 2019. Then I was with NTA International. And then I just closed from work that day. On my way home, I called my husband. He didn't pick. I said, well, he will call me back, and he never did. That night, by next morning, I got worried, and I called again. He didn't pick the call. The next message I got, they tried to, quote it in a mild way. They said, they don't know what's wrong with your husband, or send somebody there. So I called the doctor. Then I was taking my children to school. I called the doctor. Please, I don't know, they say something is wrong with my husband. He said, okay, they should bring him to the clinic. And then I sent my kid brother to the house.
You have your extended family in Port Harcourt?
Yes. My husband,
he was in Port Harcourt and
he
you were
left,
here?
Yes, he stays there, but he just left Abuja. He had just left Abuja that week. because his mom was ill, so he needed to go and attend to her. And so usually in the morning we pray together as a family, the kids, all of us. But that day, he never called. And then when I sent my younger brother there, he just broke the news to me. Brother is dead.
I don't understand.
He had died the day before, or that day?
Apparently, they woke up to find out that he had died.
Was he sick?
No, he was healthy. We talked while I was on duty. I closed around after 7 p.m. news. I closed and I called, as you know, my habit. I'll call him. Oh, I'm going home, and we talk from the office, or until I get home. But he didn't respond.
Like he will accompany you from the
office
home. And so that was how it was like darkness just came. I didn't know how to react. And then when the news came, I was driving. Fortunately, it wasn't at the express. And so I don't know how I parked the car, but I know I saw myself running.
Oh, goodness.
You came out of your vehicle.
I was just running and screaming. Some people, that was around Jabi, some people just saw me, caught me,
oh, Lord,
and held me out. I didn't know where I was running to. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I was running. I was shouting and running, and they caught me. Somebody that saw me leave the car said, she just left that car now. She just left. So they managed to hold me down. And then there was a little girl I had dropped my kids. This friend was inside the car. My daughter's friend said, oh, we're going somewhere. The daughter's school is there. And they said, okay, she should call her. And they called her. She came.
That's your daughter now?
My daughter.
Hi.
How old was she then?
She was about 15, 16. So she came and they told her, the girl heard the conversation while I was in the car door. So she told her what happened. So she was the one that told the people our house. They asked her where our house was. She told them. One of the two guys entered the car and drove my car and took us back home. And getting home, I didn't want to accept it. You know what that means? A man you've known.
Almost half of your life.
Half of your life. He was a friend. It wasn't just my husband. He was a friend. He was larger than life. So I didn't believe my husband would die. Not that at that time.
Especially that he was not even sick. It wasn't an accident. Nothing.
Nothing. While I was on duty that day, he had even we always hear each other. He had sent me some text messages, jokes that we share. He would just, so it's not as if he was sick, because when he's sick, I will know. He will tell me, honey, I'm not feeling too good, but nothing of sort. And that day, I insisted I would go to try airlines. There was no flight. I said, I'm going.
What did you have with you at home besides your children?
Neighbors now. When those people came, they went to the other flats, other places.
Let them know.
And so neighbors came. My brother-in-law and his wife came, so they were there with us. I told them I'm going to the airport to try, no flight. I said, I'm trekking to Port Harcourt now, because it's not, I can't believe it. No, not my husband.
You wanted confirmation.
Confirmation. So the men said, I don't know them, God bless them. Those two men, up till I tried to get their number, but I couldn't. They were there, total strangers.
Wow.
And so I got to the airport. They said the only flight that was available was business class. I said, just pay, let's go. I just want to go there because I don't believe my husband was dead. And I got there, and truly he was dead.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And so it all started, and then we went through it, burial arrangements, all the drama. And then 1 year down the line, 2020 then, as I was just about coming out of it.
This will break many hearts.
My elder brother, who was supportive, who was there for me, also died July 24th, 2020. And then, I thought it couldn't get worse. I just didn't know what to do. I gathered myself, we buried him the next month. I came back, buried him. He died July, buried him September.
All this time, may I ask you a question? How were your children?
They were confused. They were confused. My daughter was particularly close to the father. And so, you know that when we want to sleep, my daughter would practically run into me, like she's holding on to me. She was scared. They were both, all of them, they were scared. My son, he just was confused. We just moved around the whole house. He just didn't know what to do. People would say, don't worry. He wasn't talking much, but you could see the trauma. And then the worst happened again.
Oh, goodness, Lord.
My daughter died.
Oh! Joyce is here today. Please put all that into context and tell us, how does one begin to put that together?
Okay, when people suffer from loss, there are several reactions that occur when a loss happens, a loss of a loved one. There are lots of emotional distress. There's emotional distress that goes with this. The shock. First of all, the shock, especially if the loss was sudden, like in her case. Shock, disbelief, anger, guilt.
She has to be back to back.
Back to back, especially. I mean, the individual would wonder if there was something I could have done that would have prevented this from happening.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of emotional distress that goes on with all of this, with the loss of a loved one. The distress is worse, like I said, if it's sudden. If it's sudden death, if you were very, very attached to this person. Now, apart from that, there are other things that follow. This yearning for this person, and that goes on for so many months, weeks and months, okay? Of course, there'll be other symptoms like inability to sleep. Even when you're at home, you know, there are times when it seems like you hear the voice of this person in the house. Yeah, you know, there are little reminders in the house
of those people.
You know,
in this case, we have 3 people. So
three
reminders.
3 reminders. So that's a lot to take in. That's
I want to ask Joyce, did you know, she's a medical health expert. We've spoken to people after one loss. They can barely move on. You had 1, you had 2, you had 3. Did you seek medical counsel? Did you talk to experts?
Well, I wouldn't say I walked into the medical facility and said, look, I need help. But I had doctor friends. I mentioned a doctor, Dr. Faponle. He was always checking up on me, called, you know. And then I had a strong support system. And that's important.
That's important.
Very important. Yes, I had the option to remain down. I had the option to just swallow in self-pity and say, because when my husband died, I was lost. First, I was lost. I didn't know how to move on. Because you see a man who protects the woman, who does everything. You are practical. Even when I took the job with him, he said, just stay there. Right? Because he provides emotional, financial, all kind of support. And so I got lost. I was just asking, how do I move on?
How do I move on?
Who takes decision? Who will call me up in the mornings? Who will pray with me? So I said, so I'll go through the day. Nobody will call me to ask how I'm doing. Then, eventually, I had my kids. They were fantastic. They were there. They would come into my room. My sons, they would put their hand on my shoulder. They said, Mommy, we're here. We make you proud. And yes.
And one of your sons is here today.
Yes.
What's his name?
Chukulewa.
Chukulewa.
Meaning he's God's own.
Solid. Nice.
So And then my
You least
daughter,
expected your daughter.
my daughter was it. Was the
You
camel.
never saw it coming.
It was the camel that broke the. It was the stone that broke the camel's back. No, it was just too much. And I said,
At that point.
At that point, I was giving up.
You were giving up.
I
But you did not.
I did not.
You were, but you did not.
I wanted to.
What thought came to your mind when eventually she passed and you saw that you were going under? What did you tell yourself?
I said, at the point, I grieved. I gave up. I despite all what they were saying, it's just like pouring water on the back of a dog. But it got to a point, I asked myself, if you pass, what happens to these boys?
Okay, Joy.
Your mother, my mother is still alive. I said, what happens?
Joy, it's I don't know. Anyway, let's just hold it there. You know how we said yesterday that there is no right or wrong way to grieve, and that people grieve differently. But in our cultural institutions, our traditions, it's not always so. There's expectations from the bereaved. There's a way a widow is supposed to grieve. There's a way the children of the bereaved is supposed to grieve. It's a whole lot of cultural expectations. Well, let's allow Uju take us on this conversation.
I entered into an abusive relationship, and it was tough and very difficult. I actually wanted to leave, but a lot of people were saying to me, no, I couldn't because of the society. Nobody allows it, family. In my family, nobody has gone through that before, so nobody was willing, to allow it. They just kept saying to me, just keep managing. But it was really, really bad. So at some point, I had to take that decision on my own, just to stay alive. When I heard the news that my brother passed on, it was bad. I was shattered. I wasn't myself. I was traumatized. I was confused. I was just crying, as in shedding tears.
You are looking gloomy. You are looking sad. This is not the you that I know. What is the problem?
Doc, I've gone through a lot.
I'm going to put you through an exercise that will help you release. And if it does, you let me know. Now, it's a very simple exercise. It is drawn from energy medicine, energy psychology. So I'm going to ask you to put your right palm on top of your left side of your chest. Yes. And I want you to bring that memory to, into your mind now. Not for it to hurt you, but for you to keep it and then see whether we can release it. Now, continue to rub your hand like this. I'm going to ask you to rub it in a circular motion. Don't press too much, just rub slightly. And we are going to repeat an affirmation, that I'm going to guide you to do. Okay? So even though I have had this experience today, repeat after me.
Even though I have had this experience today,
sending body back to home.
Sending a body in a bag home.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Love and accept myself.
Even though I had this experience this morning. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I've had this experience this morning. I deeply
I deeply
and completely love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
Now I want you to tap the beginning of your eyebrow. Say this experience.
This experience.
Now tap the corner of your eye and say this experience.
This experience.
This experience.
This experience.
Now tap under your eye and say this experience.
This experience.
This experience.
This experience.
Now tap under your nose and say this experience.
This experience.
This experience.
This experience.
Now tap under your mouth and say this experience.
This experience.
This experience.
This experience.
Now tap your collarbone and say this experience.
This experience.
This experience.
This experience.
Now I want you to raise your hand a little bit and tap under your armpit about 4 inches below your armpit and say this experience.
This experience.
This experience.
This experience.
Now tap on top of your head and say this experience.
This experience.
This experience.
This experience.
Now I want you to take a deep breath. It's okay. A deep breath. Down. Take another deep breath. I want you to evaluate again and check whether your internal response to this painful experience is still 10 over 10.
It's not 10 over 10, truly.
What is it?
Because what is happening to me is at some point I felt like the images were disappearing
Exactly.
from my eyes.
Beautiful.
As if I'm trying to throw out
Yeah.
you know, the person. My support system was like a major thing for me. The few friends that were willing, to help me, the few, colleagues that were ready, to support. And then I also have neighbors that were cooperative and just said to me, don't worry, we'll be fine. We'll take 1 or 2 things off you. Oh, don't worry, we'll cook for you today, and like that. That was how I was able, to overcome. Sometimes I feel lonely, I'm bored and all of that. But I'll just, try and hang out with friends. So when I hang out on weekends, it helps to relieve, the pressure. So
I was tapping, I was doing everything, and it is quite relaxing. Thank you so much, Uju, for that. There's no easy way to deal with loss. Thank God we still have a doctor here, Dr. Chibuzo, and I'm going to go straight to you. How do you come out of that dark place? I call it a dark place. How do you come out of it? How do people heal?
Yeah, it's indeed a very dark place. Now, when someone has suffered from a loss, what we usually would advise, or what's advisable, is first of all, have a support system, a strong support system. And like she mentioned here now, you can see that the support system that she had was really very helpful. So first of all, a strong support system. And it's been shown that those who do not even have strong support system are not able to grieve, or have what we call prolonged grief, where the grief goes on for a very long time and they are not able to function. So first of all, they are not able to come out of it. So having a strong support system is important. That's one. Allowing yourself to grieve is important. That's acknowledging the feelings that you're having, the feelings of sadness. Allow yourself to grieve. Another way is also like trying to get back to your normal activities, doing things that you enjoy, things that will bring you happiness, things that will bring you joy. For some people, engaging in activities in the community, in the church, even helping someone else who has suffered from a loss or trauma is a way of also helping yourself to grieve, to recover.
And in that engaging now that we'll come back to Joyce, because based on what you've shared with us, something was birthed. You are birthing new dimensions in a bid to impact more people. Can we look in that direction?
Okay, yeah. When I sat back and looked at everything that had happened, I was just telling you, I had the option, I had the choice to make, either stay down or move on. And I chose the latter. And in doing that, I had to remove the focus from me. I said, okay, now I know what it feels to lose someone. I know the pain that comes with it. I know how difficult it can be for somebody who doesn't have support. Remember, my case was different because I had that support. I had NTA family. I had my family, and I had friends who are willing to go above and beyond for us. And I have children, wonderful children, the 2 boys, lovely children, who are there for me. So we were, supporting each other. So I said, there must be someone out there who doesn't have this support system. And so I have devoted myself to provide that support to people who are going through stuff, not just lupus, not just kidney, just grief. I go out.
When you share with them, what kind of feedback do you get? What do they say?
I remember a particular woman whose daughter died. She would come. I went out and I was with her. I said, look, it's okay to cry. It's okay to grieve because there's no shortcut to grieving, and there's no one size fits all. And grieving period is not, it varies from individual to individual. So grieve. I said, I'm open. She would call me up 3 a.m. and say, how did you cope? I said, I didn't cope. I just lived.
I'm surviving.
I'm surviving. So yeah, if you want to cry, go ahead, cry. Because I encourage people to cry. Don't hold it all in.
Okay.
And there's one cultural mistake a lot of Nigerians make. They say, don't cry. You don't cry like unbeliever. Don't grieve like unbeliever. That's damaging.
Okay.
That's
Patience
damaging.
is taking us somewhere
Yes,
now.
okay.
We'll come back.
All right.
We'll come back.
There's a whole lot to say about grief and loss. But when you belong to a community, what role should that community play when there is a loss or when there is a tragic or traumatic occurrence? How should they come in? This next contribution will show more light on that.
The power of community is the idea that local communities should have much greater influence and control over the plans, decisions, and public services that affect their lives.
If anything happens in the community, either by another tribe, the first thing to be done is for them to look for their representative, and their representative will not bring the matter before the chief. As a community, we do help by contributing and support the person affected to show that love, of humanity.
Community power can strengthen community well-being. Involving people in decision-making alongside supporting them with resources and wider social infrastructure can enable community action to improve well-being and resilience locally.
And some other peoples that may lost their parents at tender age, we normally sympathize with them, we encourage them. The schools within my domain, I do call the proprietors, the principals for a meeting here. And when they come, I demand for scholarships. And if scholarship is given, those are the kind of people I give to.
Power within communities involves the distribution of resources or the lack thereof.
We were among the lucky ones to get palliative, but it was not much compare the number of human beings living within the environment. I was having beans with corn, and other crops. I summoned the whole community and then said, I am adding this my crops to the palliatives that was given by government. And I summoned all the churches, pastors, as well as imams. And I demand that whatsoever they have, let them bring it so that we support the entire community. And they answered me massively. And we called the whole community. The community gathered here, and all those things were shared to people.
When we have issues of flood in our community, when the report came to the chief summoned us, and then we'll go to the site to see what really transpired. And from there, we draw the attention of the victim. We see how to help the person. First and foremost, we give the person another accommodation, possibly for the person to keep his family. We see how we're able to put hands together and find something for them to eat.
Positive experience with communities allow individuals to feel more connected to their environment and the people in it.
Okay, community support would always be very important, and it will help people heal and move on. Our two beautiful guests are still in the house, and I will now turn to Dr. Chibuzo. Dr. Chibuzo, at what point do people need medical help, you know, when they are grieving? When is the time to shout? When is the time to say, okay, now this is not normal. This person needs to be sane. You know, at what point?
It's expected that after a couple of months, yes, after the loss, all the myriad of emotions that I mentioned earlier will be there. The anger, the guilt, the sadness, even some, you know, symptoms of depression that might, you know, feeling sad and all of that will be there. It's expected that as the days go by, as the weeks go by, as the months go by, the intensity of those emotions should reduce. Now, if you're having, after 6 months or 1 year, the level of distress is still as much as it was a few weeks after the loss, then something is not right. And then it gets to a point where it affects the functioning of this person. The person is not able to get out of bed. Activities of daily living is a struggle. There are feelings of hopelessness. The person becomes, you know, starts to ask himself or herself, why am I still alive? Should I still be here? Emotional numbness, you know, inability to feel anything. Okay, at that point, help should be sought.
Help should come. Okay. But like you said earlier, Joyce, that you did not go and open the door and say, I want to seek medical counseling, but you had it indirectly. Do you think that contributed to building yourself to the point where you are?
Yes, it did. That did a lot. And also self-acceptance. I accepted my situation, and I had something to look up to. I had my boys, so that also helped.
Dr. Chibuzo, can you throw some light on this community and cultural practices and how they can impact somebody who has suffered deep loss and is going through trauma?
Culture can have both positive and negative impacts on someone who is grieving. Let me give some examples. I'll start with the negative impact. There are a lot of harmful cultural practices that target female, you know, asking the lady to, I'm sure I think some of them have been stopped now, asking, washing the cups of the person and asking the woman to drink it, telling her to swear that she's not the one who killed her husband and all of that. Now, this individual is suffering from a loss. I mean, she didn't have anything to do with that. And then this is happening to her. She's traumatizing her further. She's left with children that she has to cater for, and then the properties are taken from her. Okay, so now she's left with the loss of her husband, and she now has to worry about how to care for her children. So those are the negative impacts that some of these cultural practices have on people who have suffered loss. Now, the positive aspects of it, we still have this communal sense, you know, in this part of the world, in Africa we do. And that can help sometimes in a way that the person doesn't feel alone. So if you have a widow, you have family members, you have extended family members in the person's house, helping. Some people bring food and all of that. So in having people around you, you know, when you need them, people running errands, just trying to ask you, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? That communal living that we have in this climate actually does help.
Healing.
It does help in
Okay.
healing.
I would like to ask you a question. You know, we said something about, we've said it severally, no right or wrong way to grieve, right? And then we have cultural expectations. I want to tell me your experience. Was there a way your people in the community expected you to grieve, or did you follow their traditional grieving method, or you were just you? Because in my own place, well, a short story, I lost my grandmother, she's my namesake, and I'm coming to the village, and my aunt met me, and we're talking, high school, what did you hear? And I told her, we're getting close to the house, and she said, namesake, or start crying, start shouting. And we're just talking. A moment, I turned and looked at her. And then before you know, she screamed, her namesake is coming, no. And you know, so the expectations, yes. Her namesake is coming, no.
But were you able to bring it up?
I was shocked first.
Did you rehearse?
No. Tell me now. I'm not supposed to be laughing. Tell me.
But
I was shocked. My grandmother was an amazing woman, loved by the whole community. I was already crying from school. But that drama of, we're talking just a while ago. How come you said I should start screaming? I looked at her, she was screaming, and the tears were coming out like water. We're just laughing a moment ago to say, how are you? And I looked at her and I said, wow. But of course, when we got there and I saw people, I cried naturally.
This was genuine.
Genuine. But that, okay, next week we are getting close, let's start screaming. I didn't do it. So were there times like that where people would expect that you're supposed to be doing a particular show?
No, my communities, we don't have that kind of cultural perspective to grieving. You do your thing. And even in any case, even if they had asked me, because I was really grieving, I wasn't even hearing. In fact, people would say, oh, I was there. I wasn't seeing. I wasn't hearing. It was that bad. It was like my system shut down. So nothing would have entered. It would have just been me in my world. Even my children, I had to come out to hear them. My son does something one day, say, Mom, you're not hearing me. I'm talking, you're not hearing me. And that touched my soul. I said, okay, I need to hear these children. I have reason to live. And here I am. My pillow is the only one that can tell you that I come out and I laugh, I touch people, I want to do more. I want to give of myself.
And thankfully, you have the opportunity, even just by sharing your story, you are changing the narrative for many people. We'll spend some time with Tijani now, who has sought to bring to the table real life. Okay, Magdalene was talking about PTSD.
Yes.
You know, there's something called post-traumatic stress disorder. She delved in, spoke with a mental health expert. Let's see what she's bringing up.
According to statistics, 70% of adults experience at least one traumatic event in their lifetime, while 20% of people who experience traumatic events will develop post-traumatic stress disorder, popularly called PTSD. Statistics also reveal that about 13 million people have post-traumatic stress disorder every year.
Sometimes we can have the symptoms, but we may not have the disorder, because we can go through these things and maybe to an extent we come back, to an extent we almost like come back to functioning, we come back to normality. We may just have the symptoms, but we may not have the disorder. So the disorder is a step forward, that when we have experienced something that is scary directly or indirectly. So a direct experience could be maybe you were robbed. A direct experience could be maybe your house caught on fire. A direct experience could be you lost a job, you lost a loved one. An indirect experience could be when you hear of something, when you watch it in the news, when a loved one has experienced something and they tell you about it. When can you have a disorder? When you begin to have the symptoms of withdrawal, you do not want to interact with anybody. Isolation, you want to be on your own, you want to avoid those places and those things that are reminders. Your worldview becomes negative. It's normal, because when you experience something very scary, the things you know change. You know, the ideas about life, the control you had about yourself, the security, the safety, all those things change.
While it has been observed that challenging issues such as natural disasters, life-threatening experiences, terrorism, depression, stress, rape, amongst others, can lead to mental health disorders, experts disclose that if properly treated, those affected can go on to live a healthy life.
It can cut across age. It's not a respecter of age, it's not a respecter of class, it's not a respecter of gender. Anybody can have these symptoms. Anybody can experience post-traumatic stress symptoms and also develop a post-traumatic stress disorder. Anybody can have it. One, there's a lot of withdrawal. They don't want to interact with people. There's fear. There's isolation. There's the conversation about not wanting to be exposed to anything that reminds them of the place. They don't want to go in that area. They don't want to anything that would remind them, they run away from it, or they keep away from it, they avoid it.
To some persons, PTSD is a minor issue. But according to medical practitioners, no matter how insignificant it may seem, PTSD should be addressed with immediate effect, as the adverse effects can be devastating.
There's some things you can do also to help yourself. You can have your lifestyle changes. You can have yourself focusing more on things that are a bit more pleasurable to help you through your dark times and through your trying times. And if you feel like these things are not working, please seek professional support. Please seek mental health support. Go to your hospitals, go to your mental health practitioners who you trust and who fit what you're looking for. I think it's very important to let people know that the help is out there.
Life can make one downcast, but it should not get to the extent where health is mismanaged. To this end, experts advise that we should watch out for post-traumatic symptoms amongst family, friends, and loved ones. Things to watch out for are intrusive memories, avoidance of reality, negative changes, extreme physical and emotional reaction, and mood swings, amongst others. When noticed, these symptoms should be reported to trained medical professionals. After all, we can all agree that life has no duplicate.
PTSD, one of the fallouts from a traumatic experience. A whole lot of people are going through it, and they don't even know they're going through it. The doctor is here to throw more light on that. Talk a little about this condition, PTSD.
Okay, so PTSD, known as post-traumatic stress disorder, occurs after a traumatic experience, okay? And of course, a lot of people are going through that now in Nigeria, the increase in kidnap, communal clashes and all of that. So after the experience, or after the experience, most people will not know that they have PTSD. PTSD usually starts about a month after the experience, okay? Now, patients will, or the individual will notice that he or she keeps having intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts means like memories of the experience, and they are intrusive. They keep disturbing the individual, even when he or she doesn't want to think about the event, okay? So they keep coming, you know, little fractions or portions of the trauma keep intruding into the patient's mind. Now, the intrusive thoughts too can come in form of nightmares, okay? Going to bed at night and you're having nightmares about the events and flashbacks about the events. Now, there's arousal. The patient is easily startled, you know, gets easily irritable, little things around the house or when communicating with people, you know, everybody would notice that this person is much more irritable than he or she used to be. There are what we call cognitive and mood changes. There is this persistent negative emotional state that the person finds himself or herself. The person feels ashamed of what has happened to him. There is numbness, feels numb, doesn't, cannot, you know, experience a range of feelings. There we have distorted perceptions. That is, the person believes that what happened was as a fault of him or her.
Something that they did.
Yes, something that I did. So this traumatic experience happened because of something that I did.
And what kind of effect can that have on people? If you keep thinking, I'm to blame because I did or did not do something.
Now, if someone keeps feeling that this is my fault, the person will not seek help. If the person keeps feeling ashamed of what has happened, the person will not seek help.
Okay, we need to ask you to hold the thoughts. Thank you for expatiating. We are the better for it at the end of the day. When we have knowledge, we then know how to project or how to handle ourselves. A break beckons. Keep your messages coming in. We know you have experiences that you love to share, and you've had a field of thought that we have shared today on the show. It's beyond human comprehension to talk of the whys, the hows, and the when and the where. But loss and trauma does occur for everyone at different times. How you handle it it depends on you. But Joyce Oburu has been sharing her story.
So when you hear these survival stories, some of them make no sense. The only thing that will make sense is that there is an invisible hand in it, and I'm talking about God. TJ has put together this beautiful mini documentary on the God factor in surviving trauma. Let's watch it together.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. My name is Muhammad Kolo, and I'm a civil servant.
But there's one friend named Jesus, he will wipe my tears away.
My name is Chioma Ibeleche and I'm from Imo State. I am a civil servant. I work at a media house, NTA.
In life, there are up moments and not so up moments. And if you are lucky to be trained to effortlessly and objectively tie everything to the will of Allah, will of God, you've passed the exam.
First of all, I want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to be alive to even talk about it. Because if I were to be dead, I would not be sitting here giving my testimony.
I was involved in an accident, road accident. And while passerbys, people that were driving on the same road with us stopped and wanted to help people, they thought I was gone. But as God will have it, I threw up. And luckily, these are stories I was told after, because I wasn't aware of what was going on at the time. I threw up and they said, wow, he's still alive. He's still alive. Come on, bring it down, bring it down. They dusted me up and they sat me down behind the car and drove to the hospital.
I entered this keke with a man who was sitting at the both ends of the keke. So as the keke moved, we passed through, I think this happened at Karu side, somewhere in Abuja, and we were moving that night. So I never knew that there were some bike men monitoring that keke. And because it was not a working day, it was a weekend, so anything could happen. There were not much cars on the road. So they felt it was okay for them to drag me out of a moving keke that night just to take hold of my phone. Well, I didn't know initially. What happened was that I felt some people dragging me out. And as a human being, I was trying to withhold both myself and my phone. So I was dragged out and stabbed. They left me on the mirror. They stabbed me and left me there.
So I spent about a month and a half, or about 2 months in the hospital. One of such months, I was in coma all through about 28 days. Because even when I got to the hospital, I was told that treatment was not done because I had to be revived from coma first. And who revives from coma? Will of God. No medicine, nothing does that. So 28 days running, I was in coma. The only signal that waiting had to continue was because my heart was so beat.
So a car, I'll call that car a good Samaritan. He came by and asked what happened. So I explained, I was narrating what happened in pains. From there, they took me home, and after that, my parents and my family, they all rushed me to the hospital. And the doctor said I was very lucky because the point where I was stabbed was very close, but I was very lucky. And at that point, I didn't know what they were saying, but I just know that God is so faithful. And because I keep saying this, and I started my fast, I'm not saying fasting is the only thing, but the willingness and the zeal to even start my fast that day. Even though I couldn't continue because I was on drugs after then, but I started my fast. I said I wanted to do fasting and praying. So that alone was enough to even save me.
I was diagnosed that I needed a brain surgery. I underwent brain surgery from the accident that people rose from with just bruises. It is traumatic. But you see, I discovered one thing in the process of it all. When I started recovering and getting to have to listen to the rhythm of my recovery, I began to thank God because, to be perfectly honest, even the chief surgeon, neurosurgic surgeon, who treated me told me that he doesn't know what I did to myself or how I did it. But I should go and meet my God, interface with my God and ask him Why did he keep me alive and well? Because even if I was not supposed to die, according to him, I shouldn't recover half as okay or as normal as I am.
I may be smiling today because this happened last year, 2nd of July. That very night, that very moment, I felt I was not going to make it. It was not the me then and me now are two different things. I'm smiling because I'm a survivor. I'm a miracle. But that very moment, it was, if there's anything more than traumatic, it was because I felt I wasn't going to make it. I was bleeding. That's all I can say. It was extremely traumatic for me.
Whatever happens, don't tie it to a human being. Good or bad, try. It will be hard, given the goings and comings in life and living. It will be hard, but try as much as possible. Don't tie your misgivings. Don't tie your misfortunes to human beings. Tell God that you are the owner of everyone and everything, the creator and the controller. You brought this upon me, I agree. Help me out of it the best way.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Now, I want to talk about three times I escaped death on that spot. I was stabbed. I didn't die instantly. I was on the main road. I didn't get hit by a car. I was bleeding. I didn't die of bleeding. 3 good times I would have gone. So I give God all the glory. And I wish people can see that there is need to always praise God, love God. If you love Him, if you put Him first, He will put you too first.
Wow. God is real and He'll keep helping.
Can we get a final word from our medical expert?
On that.
One word.
Well, we know that there are, emotional distresses that come from losses and from trauma. Okay. My advice would be that when you find out that you can no longer cope, you're no longer able to function, you should seek help.
Okay. One word. Joyce, one word. One word to the world.
Yeah. Do not underestimate the grace of God in every situation. And for everything that happens, there is always a purpose.
Yeah.
And you found your purpose?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm here to serve humanity. My life is just that.
Please permit me to hold your hands.
Let's go hold here. Let's link hands together. I mean, it's been emotional, it's been traumatic, but the truth is, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Another bright day will come. Yes. It will definitely come. Just keep holding on and keep holding the hand of the next person who needs to be held. Please, let's hold each other through it and we'll be strong together.
Yes. God bless. Thank you.